So you have 5 offers on your house. Sounds like an easy decision, right? Not even close. Because here what surprises a lot of sellers. The highest offer isn't always the best offer, and the cash offer isn't automatically the best offer either. So how do you actually choose?
Welcome back to this week's Did You Know? Real Talk with Nina and Christine. So if your house receives multiple offers, hey, congrats. That's a situation many sellers hope to be in. But once the offers start coming in, things can get overwhelming. So today we're talking about how sellers can handle multiple offers and what you should be comparing before choosing which one you're going to accept.
One of the biggest misconceptions we hear is that there's only one way to handle multiple offers. And that's simply not true. Depending on offers you received and what's most important to you as a seller, there are several different strategies your agent can recommend. The right approach depends on your goals, not just how many offers are sitting on the table.
So let's start with the concept of best offer. So when we say best, we don't necessarily mean the highest offer. The best offer is the one that is most going to align with yours, the seller's goals, while also having strong terms and a solid likelihood of making it all the way to closing.
Exactly. You're really looking at everything together. Of course, price matters, but you're also looking at financing, earnest money, inspection terms, contingencies, closing timelines, and how financially qualified the buyer appears to be. 2 offers can have the exact same purchase price, but look very different once you start reading through the details and the terms of the actual offers.
Right, because a great offer on paper doesn't help if the financing falls apart a week before closing or if the buyer starts asking for major concessions later. But if one offer doesn't clearly stand out or several offers are fairly similar, that's when sellers may decide to negotiate an offer or move to another strategy, which we call highest and best.
And highest and best can absolutely be an effective strategy, but it's important to understand how and why you're using it. Now, how your agent contacts every buyer's agent who submitted an offer, and sometimes buyers who have shown serious interest, and let them know there are multiple offers. They're given a deadline to submit their strongest price and terms before the seller makes a final decision.
Now, why? This creates competition, and that competition can absolutely strengthen offers. But here's something sellers should also understand. It doesn't always work the way people expect. Some buyers simply don't enjoy competing in multiple offer situations, and others don't want to keep increasing their offer if they don't know where they stand. So they may decide to not participate at all.
Exactly. That's why there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Sometimes, instead of immediately calling for highest and best, your agent may have conversations with one or more buyer's agents first to see if there are opportunities to strengthen certain parts of their offers. Maybe the seller really wants a quicker closing, a larger earnest money deposit, fewer contingencies, or appraisal gap coverage. Sometimes those conversations can accomplish the seller's goals without asking every buyer to completely rewrite their offer.
Now, let's say you've received everyone's final offers. Most sellers naturally look at the highest number first. Yes, price is important, but like we said, so are financing strength, proof of funds, down payment contingencies, and the overall terms being offered. And while people often say cash is king, that does not automatically make it the best offer.
We've actually seen finance offers beat cash offers. Sometimes a finance buyer is offering more money, putting a significant amount down, or including things like appraisal gap coverage that make their offer very attractive. On the flip side, we've also seen the highest price offer end up not being the strongest offer because of contingencies, inspection requests, or other terms that increase the seller's risk.
So another thing to keep in mind is that appraisal. If a finance buyer offers well over asking price, the lender will usually require an appraisal. And if the property appraises for less than the purchase price, that can become another negotiation unless the buyer has agreed to cover some or all of that difference. So we'll actually cover that, appraisal gaps in more detail in another episode later.
You also want to look at things like inspection contingencies, whether the buyer has to sell another home first, how much earnest money they're putting down, and the proposed closing timeline. Sometimes a slightly lower price offer with stronger overall terms ends up being the better choice because it's more likely to get to the closing table with fewer surprises.
At the end of the day, managing multiple offers isn't just about finding the buyer who writes the biggest number down on a piece of paper. It's about evaluating the entire offer, understanding the strengths and risks of each one, and choosing the offer that best supports the seller's goals.
If you're thinking about selling your home, having a strategy before the sign even goes in a yard can make a huge difference. Every multiple offer situation is different, and knowing your options ahead of time can help you make confident decisions when those offers start coming in. If you have questions about selling, leave them in our comments, send us a message, or reach out to us directly. Our contact information is up on the screen.
All right, everyone, that's it for this week's Did You Know Real Talk with Nina and Christine. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and follow, and we will see you next week. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.